From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big afternoon of Afternoons LA, direct from Santa Monica with your fourth stimulus check update of 2021. Passed a $3.5 trillion recon. I have all the incredible great news as the House Budget Subcommittee, passes a $3.5 trillion recon for you. These incredible checks, cluster number 1, 2, and 3 got in there, including the president's third cluster, the second cluster for seniors and workers, and cluster number 1 for hazard pay. I'll go over all these incredible clusters. And then the inclusion of those IRS monthly stimulus check that the Democratic leaders, no less than 1,000 viewers, been told by 12 of them, they're going in there. We'll go over all the dramatics that unfolded last weekend and last week. As the president now says no vote on the roads and bridges until you agree to the recon. I'll have all the nuances of what's going on in the negotiations about the recon. It's all breaking at Afternoons. And then we'll be cutting over to third stimulus, which has additional cash infusion of $13 billion landing in your cities and counties and states. And then we'll go to the breaking exclusive, as the Progressive Caucus is now leaning upon your advocacy and this channel, and using this channel to help get that recon over the finish line. I have all the incredible details as we go into a huge recording, starting right here, right now, on Afternoons LALATE. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I hope the weather is good where you are. Dramatics across the board, and we have gorgeous weather back here in Southern California. It heated up over the weekend, but I hope the weather is good where you are. Jump in the live chat and tell me where you're tuning in from. Fourth stimulus check updated 2021 heats up today as the Democratic Caucus meets to agree upon the recon as they passed a $3.5 trillion recon in that budget committee. I'll go over all those clusters of checks, including the president's cluster number 3, including seniors and workers. Cluster number 2, which includes the incredible monies for students' home repairs. And then cluster number 1, house hazard pay across the board. The inclusion of that IRS stimulus check still at play as no less than 1,000 viewers get reconfirmation last week for the inclusion from those Senate Democrats. I'll go over the comments and what is the latest update today on Afternoons LA. And then we go over the dramatics as comments came in over the weekend from AOC Jalopal and also Bernie Sanders about the recon. I'll go over Sheila Jackson. She's vice chair of the Progressive Caucus and her comments. It's all deliciousness. Guess what? They're not removing anything from the recon anytime, any place. Then we go over all the details about what's going on with third stimulus with that additional cash infusion from the nonprofits. Wow, one of a new refrigerator. I'm going to get you all those details. And then the exclusive that everyone's talking about. This channel has now been indicated by the number 1 progressive on the number 1 team that it is this channel and my recordings are now helping get this recon passed. I'll explain to you why your advocacy and this channel has now become a game changer. It's all happening at Afternoons. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers of YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Like the video and consider becoming a member. 2 weeks ago, a House Budget Committee on Saturday night, led by Sheila Jackson, the number 2 in the Progressive Caucus under Jalopal, passed your $3.5 trillion recon. I merely delivered the great news as cluster 1, 2, and 3's checks got in there. Broadcast media never covered it. Print media never covered it. Other YouTube channels didn't even know it happened. And in this recording, we'll go over all those incredible clusters. 1, 2, and 3 passed. The inclusion of that IRS stimulus check that the Democratic leadership told 1,000 of its viewers of this channel before that vote and after the vote, it's going in there. And then we'll go over to the breaking exclusive right now as Democratic progressives are leaning upon this channel and its advocacy to get the recon over the finish line. We'll be going over what the Democratic progressives said over the weekend and what they're saying this week. It's a big recording, and it starts right now with the first cluster. Passed. The first cluster in that $3.5 trillion recon is hazard pay, $4,000 a year for elderly care, other $4,000 to young children's care, $51,000 of monthly stimulus checks, then home repairs, then college grants, and then big money for cars, bikes, and trucks. Let's go over the details. First, hazard pay got in there. They expanded the earned income tax credit so that more people are eligible, and then they get paid more money. Huge win for this channel and you. With no less than 300 videos every day on the day, all last year about hazard pay. Then up to $4,000 a year to care for an elderly senior. Then on the other side, up to $4,000 a year to care for a young child. They got money in there for college grants to the university, to the student, and also the Pell's grant made tax-free. They got home repairs for low-income community homes in there as well. Toll-free money to repair those homes in a low-income house in a low-income community. Then $51,000 of monthly stimulus checks got in there by expanding the CTC, the child tax credit, broadening the eligibility so now more parents who are not biological parents qualify, and then expanding the payments, now up to $300 every month, every year for up to 18 years, which is $51,000 per child, as that household remains a low-income household. Wow. Then they got money in there for bikes, cars, and trucks, all electric, all U.S. auto manufacturer. First, up to 15% for the purchase price of a new electric bike. Then, up to $7,500 for the purchase of a new electric vehicle for personal use. Then, a little bit more if the vehicle is for business use, and then a little bit more if it's a truck. Wow. In a second, we'll go over the second cluster, pass, third cluster, pass, and those IRS monthly stimulus checks that the Democrats have indicated even just days ago, like Leader Schumer, that they're going in there. But first, let's take a detour over to the third stimulus. With additional $13 billion landing in your cities, counties, and states, they now have it for rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance. This is huge, and I'm going to show you how to get it. Listen to this incredible statement from Treasury. Treasury makes a statement that says they're ecstatic to send out this money for people in need. Treasury is happy to provide these state and local governments with these additional resources to help Americans in need of rental assistance. If you're a member of this channel, which I hope you are, I'll be going over this later in this video, and you have this in the newsletter. If you haven't become a member, let's hit the link under the video. And stay the final 15 minutes of this video. We have a lot coming up today on Afternoons. All right, let's turn to the second cluster of checks that got them in there, passed. The second cluster of checks starts with family leave and paid medical leave. Remember, forced stimulus has nothing to do about COVID, so it's money for everyone, seniors, SSI, SSDI, single individuals, married people, and has nothing COVID related. Family leave, medical leave, how much does it pay? On the third stimulus was $1,700 a week if you make $70,000 or more per year. Yeah, that's per week. $800 a week if you make $35,000 a year. Let's split that in half. $15,000 a year as annual salary, $400 a week. Family leave is if you have to stay home because your wife is pregnant. Medical leave, you have to stay home because your son broke his leg. No less than 12 other checks are in this second cluster, and it's deliciousness. Checks for child care programs, checks for household tax credits, checks for seniors, dental, vision, and hearing. More about this in the third cluster in just a minute. And then checks for weatherizing your home. Definitely needed to weatherize your home, especially if the moderate Democrats are on the roof. Is that them on the roof? Yeah. Remember, always keep the moderate Democrats out of the house. Lock the door, Nancy. Then we got universal pre-kindergarten, and then we got tuition-free community college. Definitely needed, because so many people always ask, can I take that class called What the World Are You Saying 101? Yeah, it's just, this strange accent. You can now take that foreign language offered across the country in community colleges called Los Angeles. It's a foreign language. Now totally free. In a second, we go to the third cluster of checks, fast. But what is Congress doing? Congress last week had a triple success story for you, the recon, and the progressives. As first, they blocked the vote for the roads and bridges, aka bipartisan, aka infrastructure, on Thursday, then blocked the vote on Friday. Then the president came out on Friday and said, you know what, there is no vote set, and there will be no vote set for the roads and bridges until we have an agreement upon the recon. Now, let me make something very clear, is that Nancy Pelosi over the weekend issued a statement saying that she wants the roads and bridges to be called for a vote at a certain time. I want to make very clear that the White House has now walked those comments back, and the White House and those comments made by Pelosi were in direct contrast to what the president said on Friday and what he said on Saturday on the South Lawn of the White House, which is there is no deadline, there's no date, and there will be no date until we have an agreement upon the recon. The roads and bridges is not going for a vote anytime soon. And I'm going to specifically step in and make sure that's the case in the present. Wow. I'll have all the incredible reactions that came in over the weekend from Bernie Sanders, a new quotes, Jalopal, AOC, Dick Durbin about the recon. Then I'm going to refer to Sheila Jackson's comment from Saturday. Yeah, also over the weekend. And she is the number 2 in the progressives about how this recon stays how it stayed. The big news, which you want to know before preview of what's coming up in the final 15 minutes of this video, is nothing. Repeat, nothing is coming out of the recon. In fact, they're adding stuff in there. Wow. Then let's cut to the third cluster of checks. The third cluster of checks are the president's checks, and they are wonderful. The first, this third cluster of checks has money for seniors and workers. Free school meals for all checks, tax break checks, cheaper prescription medication checks, checks for farmers, checks for free internet, checks for clean energy, checks for workers like independent contractors, and then checks for seniors like dental, vision, and hearing, and lowering the eligibility age for Medicare. 2 of the checks in this third cluster, the president and I particularly both alike because they're instant savings to your wallet. The first one is cheaper prescription medication. Let's say you go to the pharmacist today and say, Mr. Pharmacist, I have a very bad headache, just an excruciating headache. He said, I'm sorry. Is that the moderate Democrats causing that? How did you know? Yeah, just turn them off. I said, I need a prescription for it. He said midterm elections. I said, I need a prescription for it. Okay, take out two $20 bills out of your wallet, and then you give it to him to pay for the prescription. Then after they pass this recon, and then the moderate Democrats, unfortunately, are still there, then when you go to refill the prescription, you may only have to take one $20 bill out of your wallet. Then they're also going to make internet free. Can you imagine internet free? It's just wonderful. Now you'll be able to go online and say all those wonderful comments you have to say about Kristen Sinema. I'm sure you have a lot of wonderful comments to say about her. So now, free internet. The cities and counties and states will have totally free internet given to them by the federal government. Red, blue, rich, poor states, even Arizona, which maybe, I don't know. But now you'll be able to get the free internet. Just ask for the Wi-Fi username and password. The username is ReeseDC, and the password is GothGang. Go away. And there you go. Coming up in a second, we'll go over all the dramatics that unfolded over the weekend. Yeah. As the president spoke out about when things are getting done, how things are getting done. Then his staffer, his cabinet member, spoke out about as well. AOC, Jalopal, and Bernie all spoke about your recon. And Sheila Jackson, which I think really had the most probative and helpful comment of the subject matter. I'll explain her incredible comments. It's really brilliant information. We'll be going over that big exclusive that is going to be covered on this channel all this today and all this week. But first, let's go over those monthly stimulus checks. The great news is that when they passed that $3.5 trillion recon in that House Budget Committee, they did not refer to it as a bill, because why? They said it's a work in progress and we can still add stuff to it. In fact, that's what Nancy Pelosi told viewers of this channel going into that vote. And that is what Bernie Sanders' office said last week 3 times to viewers of this channel. That's what Chuck Schumer's office told Donnie's wife last Wednesday as the Roads and Bridges was about to go to a vote, and several days after the recon passed that House Budget Committee. Chuck Schumer told Donnie's wife, or his staffer told Donnie's wife, he's putting that monthly stimulus check provision in there. We've had no less than 1,000 viewers confirmed and reconfirmed the same messaging across the board. And the incredible thing to remember is that Nancy Pelosi and the president, as soon as that recon passed, said, you know what? It's sort of like a work in progress. You can add stuff in there. Just tell me what you want to add, and I'll add it. And they say they are. I have more about these incredible details as we go into the second half of this video. Then the big exclusive that is now making this channel and you incredibly important. And then we'll be going into what the legislators said about your recon in the last 24 and 48 hours. It's all heating up. But first, here's a little bit about the community page. If you need help with rent and utilities, here's a little bit about those volunteers. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds as Afternoons LA continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now, live from Santa Monica. We'll tape from Santa Monica as Afternoons LA continues with incredible updates about your fourth stimulus check of 2021, that recon, and more. And boy, what a big afternoon it is. In the second half of this video, we'll go over why you and this channel has now become part of the equation for passing that recon. And then we'll be cutting to the president and his staff and the progressives' comments about the recon Thursday, Friday, and this weekend. It's all happening at afternoons. Then we'll be cutting over more to that IRS monthly stimulus check and what you need to know and what's happening up next with it. Then we'll be cutting over to the third stimulus for a blink of an eye, and if we have time, we'll go right into fifth stimulus. The excitement's heating up, and we're far from over, so get ready, because surf is up, and so is stimulus. And this is Afternoons LA. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers is a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. This is the channel where you have breaking news on the hour, by the hour. Every nuance, every quote, every twist, every negotiating twist and turn is covered here. This is not a broad stroke channel. This is very in-depth coverage and reporting by the hour, on the hour, with exclusives day in, day out, day in and day out. So subscribe, like the video, and consider becoming a member. Let's cut to the big details, starting right now, as a big surprise came out of nowhere. Over the weekend, this channel learned a big, massive shocker, which is now this channel, my recordings, me and you are part of the equation to help get the recon over the finish line. Let me go over what has happened and what's transpired. It was 8 weeks ago where I told viewers to pick up the phone and advocate for the inclusion of a monthly stimulus check. And then 3 weeks thereafter, I told viewers to pick up the phone and call Bernie Sanders. He's the chair of the Democratic Senate Budget Committee. He's the guy who got the $3.5 trillion price tag. He's the guy who went into negotiations. And I said, advocate to him. And Brother Joshua did. And during that conversation, I told you that Brother Joshua was told by Bernie Sanders' office that he wants to include a monthly stimulus check, but needs to hear from you. I said that every single recording ever since then, over the last 3 weeks. Pick up the phone because he wants to hear you advocate. And I said the importance of advocating is telling your particular story. Everyone has a different story why they need this recon. Everyone's story is unique, and everyone's from a different place. Well, here's what's happened, is that over this weekend, this channel learned from one of the viewers that Bernie Sanders' top aide in D.C. told that viewer that Sanders' office is now keeping track and logging every voicemail, every email, and every staff conversation call you have as on behalf of this channel and LALATE advocating for the inclusion of a monthly stimulus check. Why are they keeping track of them? To use them during the scope of negotiations with the president and the moderates to show this is what America is asking for. With nearly 1 million viewers daily, hourly, weekly, social media followers, the biggest platform there is on both YouTube and social media, this channel embodies everything that any Democratic caucus member would want. One, we have Republicans viewing this channel who are advocating for inclusion of a stimulus check. We have moderates and we have progressives advocating for a stimulus check. We have people in red states and blue states. We embody Americans across the board. As a non-political channel, a news channel rather, this is a place where we're advocating for that inclusion. And that's why that's resonated so well with the progressives. I had told you no less than 3 weeks ago that the progressive senators would talk amongst themselves if their offices were flooded with your phone calls, and would talk among themselves and say, are you getting those LA phone calls? They now reportedly have been speaking amongst themselves and saying, yeah, have you been getting those LA phone calls from those LA viewers? And now they're very aware from them. They're very impressed by you. They're very overwhelmed by your incredible professionalism and respect and way to advocate for inclusion of things and telling your story uniquely to yourself. And now they're keeping track of those messages to use them during the negotiations to say, here is what America wants. These are thousands and thousands of messages advocating for those inclusions. Wow. So keep on advocating, because that is the face of where we're going. It's important to understand that also, if you are a West Virginia or a Arizona viewer, and you do pick up the phone and advocate, make sure you not only say you're a viewer of LA, but also indicate your state. Also, if you're in a red state, make sure you indicate that state as well. If you're in Arizona, if you're in Texas or Florida, say you're in those states, because they want to be able to say, hey, we got people in red states and blue states. We got them in Kristen Sinema states and Joe Manchin states also advocating. It was interesting because over the weekend, a quote came out from Ben Tolchin, who's a Democratic pollster previously for Bernie Sanders, who says, Obama would have done it differently than Biden's do it. Obama would have traveled to the senators' home states like West Virginia, Arizona, and said, you all support this as residents, then your senators should support it as well. That's the message you should deliver in advocating this channel. If you are in those two states, make it very clear you support it. And that way, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, when they receive the phone calls from the LA viewers, they then can say, wait a second, your residents are calling in from LA saying they want it as well. All right, and now let's turn to the big details about what's unfolding with the stimulus check and also what's unfolding with the negotiations on the recon. First, let's go over those stimulus checks. The stimulus checks is incredible because it was no less than 8 weeks ago I said pick up the phone and advocate for inclusion of a stimulus check. WR did. He picked up the phone and called Senator Chris Coons, Democrat, Delaware, advocate for the inclusion of a stimulus check. I need it. My family needs it. My community needs it. And Chris Coons saying yes, he's inserting that provision in there. Then, 3 weeks ago, this channel really picked up. I think you noticed the difference. This channel picked up across the board with breaking news on the hour, by the hour of every developing detail, and a lot of exclusives. At the time, I told you exclusively, one, the House would be writing the legislation. We now know that. The Budget Committee passing your $3.5 trillion recon, with Sheila Jackson leading the drafting. She's the number 2 in the Progressive Caucus under Jalabal. Number 2, that the House would vote first. They are. Number 3, that Bernie Sanders is critical of the equation. And at that time, Bernie Sanders had a pivotal quote which changed the whole landscape of this channel. He said, unlike prior Senate budget chairmen, I like to get out amongst the people when doing a recon. I said, if you listen to those words, that means he wants you to advocate. Pick up the phone and advocate. And I asked viewers to do so. And Margaret did, Lynn Glenn did, and brother Joshua did. They picked up the phone and advocated. I need a stimulus check. My family needs it. My church needs it. My community, my viewers, and they advocated. That's what Brother Joshua did. Advocacy takes many different forms. We met Margaret over the weekend, another Margaret, who said that she broke down in tears when she advocated. And then another viewer who told her an incredible story, how she lost her husband, how she's had 10 surgeries, and she's raising 2 teenage daughters on SSI and SSDI during this pandemic. Well, that's what Brother Joshua did. And he advocated vigorously. And Bernie Sanders staffer said to Brother Joshua 3 weeks ago, yes, he's inserting that monthly stimulus check provision, $1,000 to $1,400, 3 to 6 months, but he needs to hear from you. And I said, that's a call to action. He wants you to advocate, just like what we're talking about now. It's not so much that Bernie needs to hear it, but that Bernie staff needs to hear it so that they can show it to people that may think Americans don't want these things. Oh, yeah, they do. And here is what you said. This is Donnie. This is a series of screen grabs you're going to see on this channel right now are from either comments on the live chat or by private message on social media. I called Bernie Sanders and his secretary, and they said they're doing a forced stimulus check. I said, my city needs them. I need it. I need to progress for my water bill and everything. And they said they're doing it. Hurricane Tina advocated, and she wrote, Bernie's office said they're doing it. Then Caroline wrote that she called Bernie Sanders' office. We need help out here. We're losing our homes and what we got. Bernie Sanders said they're putting a forced stimulus check in there. And Yaya called Ron Wyden and wrote he wants to do the SS-200 as promised. At that point, we realized that advocacy takes many faces, and sometimes the face is multiple calls in one day. That's what we learned from Will. Here is what Will wrote. He says, I called Bernie and Chuck and Liz Warren all in the same day, and all three secretaries confirmed the inclusion of a stimulus check. As to Liz Warren, she said $1,400 to $2,000 6 to 12 months. Lorica writes she caught Bob Casey's office on the phone, and they said they're in negotiations for the inclusion of that stimulus check. Now, at that point, nearly 1,000 viewers of this channel had advocated to the senators, and the senators confirmed the inclusion. Those senators confirming to 1,000 viewers of this channel were Coons, Sanders, Warren, Schumer, Casey, and Wyden. And since the passage of that recon on that Saturday, the confirmations have continued to come on in from Schumer and Sanders among those many. But I said pick up the phone and advocate to the House Democrats as well. And that's what viewers did. Here comes Janice, who also called Omar. But here's a comment about Jalapal. Jalapal said she's doing a forced stimulus check. She got the same comment from Omar. The comments kept on coming in from viewers like Lorraine, and the comments came in from viewers like Mark, who got Pelosi's office on the phone. And he writes, her staff told me that they would be doing a forced stimulus check, $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter, and they're nearly finished negotiating it. AOC Jalapal Omar's office confirming to viewers of this channel and Pelosi the inclusion of that IRS stimulus check provision. And the negotiations are looking like it's $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for 6 months. This is the face of advocacy, and this is what advocacy has gotten you. And this is what can continue to get you. And that is why you need to advocate. You need to say, I need it, my family needs it, my church needs it. Everyone has a unique personal story. All right, now let's go to what happened on Thursday, Friday, and over the weekend for your recon, and what's happening this week for your recon. It's important to understand that back in the month of July, we had only one bill, and the one bill had recon and roads and bridges together. The president met with the moderate Democrats and made a concession, because they were complaining, to split that one bill into two halves, and those two halves became roads and bridges, aka infrastructure, aka bipartisan, and your recon. His promise at that time, was the two bodies of legislation have to go at the same pace together, have to be voted on at the same time, and have to land on his desk in the White House at the same time. That one cannot go forward without the other. Well, what happened last week? Last week, the progressives really were on the receiving end of a lot of shots from the moderate Democrats. First, the moderate Democrats didn't keep their promise about the debt ceiling limit, angering Pelosi. The moderates kept on trash-talking the progressives. Eventually, what happened was that after a series of very, very negative comments by the moderates about the recon and about the progressives, calling them a very small group of people, the vote was finally set for what would be 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. At that point, we were certain that the progressives, that protecting your recon, that include AOC Jalapal Omar and Sheila Jackson on the House side, we're going to have the progressives vote down the roads and bridges. And it wasn't going to be a few. It was going to be over 60, potentially up to 100. Pelosi can only lose 3 Democrats to lose a bill's passage. They were being urged by Chuck Schumer and Liz Warren going into the final minutes to vote it down. In fact, Liz Warren saying, you know what? This is not fair. The moderate Democrats have not kept their promise. And they hadn't. What had happened was that the moderate Democrats had ambushed Nancy Pelosi over the month of July and said, call the roads and bridges as a vote only, which was not what the president promised. He said both of them have to go for a vote at the same time. Well, in the minutes before the vote, Elizabeth Warren said this is not what was promised. You have to vote down those roads and bridges. And 9 o'clock came. Didn't pass. 10 o'clock came, and it didn't pass. and the progressives won. The roads and bridges was not going to be called for a vote because it was not going to pass. The second in line, Steny Hoyer, said, come back on Friday. We'll vote on the roads and bridges on Friday. I said to viewers of this channel, it ain't going to pass then either because there's no change of position for them as progressives. And by Friday morning, it didn't pass the roads and bridges. Then Friday afternoon, the president calls to the White House, House Democrats and moderate Democrats for separate meetings. During those separate meetings, the president says the following messages. One, you're not listening to me. The president said, I made a specific deal in July. We're going to split a bill into two halves, but they have to go at the same time, vote at the same time, and land on my desk at the same time. And someone thought it would be a good idea of the moderate Democrats to just do their bill and not do the recon. That's not what I agreed to. You got Pelosi to agree to just call the vote on the roads and bridges. We're not doing that. So I instructed Nancy Pelosi not to call the vote on Thursday, not to call the vote on Friday, and not to call the vote ever on the roads and bridges until we have an agreement upon the recon. There will be no vote on the roads and bridges until there's an agreement upon the recon. Wow. Then reaction came in with both sides a little bit uneasy. Now, let me zoom a little bit quickly into then Saturday and Sunday's comments. I know exactly what you're about to say. And yeah, it's a little strange. I don't have an explanation for it just yet. But Saturday, guess what Nancy Pelosi said? I'm preparing to get the roads and bridges done by Halloween. We're less than 24 hours ago, where the president said, no, don't use any more dates for the roads and bridges. In fact, Saturday morning, the president was on the south lawn of the White House saying, there will be no dates. I'm not giving anyone any dates for anything. And they first have to agree upon the recon. And by Saturday afternoon, Nancy Pelosi's issuing a letter to her staff talking about dates for the roads and bridges again. Very, very, very peculiar. It's a very unclear date. It's not a firm date. It's just sort of a vague reference. But the president specifically slammed use of dates in his discussion on Saturday morning. Very, very peculiar. Now, I want to make that very clear. It's not a firm date. It was just sort of a vague throw out there by Pelosi. All right, then what happened on Saturday? What happened on Sunday? First, let me go over the Sunday comments, and then I'll go back to the Saturday ones. On Sunday, the progressives appeared across broadcast media and the White House. First, White House Senior Advisor Cedric Richmond on Sunday, after Pelosi's statement on Saturday, came out and said, there is no time frame. This is a direct quote. We have no time frame on it. It's about delivering and making it done. And we're not going to give an artificial timeline. We are not going to do that. So that is a walk back from what Pelosi did. Then Bernie Sanders said, it's a long process, and I'm not going to give you a date either. And the president's absolutely right. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're going to get this done. Then Jalapal said the same thing. Now, Jalapal was then asked about will there be changes to the recon? She says, we're not removing programs, but we can modify how we pay for the programs. And then she was specifically asked about a particular $1.5 trillion price tag. She said, that is not going to happen. That's a direct quote. Very, very specific. Then AOC said that progressives are trying to skin this cat 9 different ways, but moderates are not really coming to the table. And she said, it's very unfair to call this moderates versus progressives. She says just a few moderates, and some of the non-moderates are very upset that they're sort of being thrown in this terminology, and it's unfortunate. Then let me tell you what Sheila Jackson said on Saturday, because I think this is the best quote that we can have. Sheila Jackson is the number 2 in the Progressive Caucus under Jalapal, but she's also the lead author of the recon that passed on the House side. She specifically was asked, how do you modify the recon if we're going to modify it? And she gave us the most clear explanation I've ever heard in nearly 2 months. It was brilliant. First, this is what she explained. The recon has lots of programs in there. And you understand them because I go through them very slowly with the different clusters, whether it's the weatherizing the home or the free internet or the 15% off the bike or the $4,000 for the elderly. Those are all different programs. So she made very clear during her interview that what can happen or what will happen is that no program is getting removed. Repeat. There will be no program removed for the recon. And in fact, Nancy Pelosi has made it clear things are going to go into the recon, new programs. They're not removing programs. But what she explained is that how to pay for the program, which doesn't really concern you, how the taxes are collected from corporations and how the taxes are collected from billionaires to pay for a bike for you or to pay for $4,000 to care for the elderly, that will get modified. How to pay for the programs will get modified so that they can figure out how the price tag is slightly different. Let's look at it this way. The bike, 15% off the purchase price of a new electric bike. It's still going to say 50% of the purchase price of the electric bike. But how they're paying for that program is going to be done differently on the back end by changing how they're taxing the corporations. Doesn't concern you. They're not going to modify the programs. They're not going to modify the prices of the programs. Now, what could they possibly modify? They could possibly modify the time horizon of the programs. And yeah, I'm not talking about 6 months. I'm talking about 16 years or 30 years. When Bernie Sanders went into negotiations, he asked for $7 trillion. He got $3.5 trillion. Notice the two numbers, 3.5 is exactly half of 7 trillion. And he was ecstatic. He emerged from the meeting and said, I got every program I wanted, fully funded exactly the price tag I wanted. But how can he do that if it's exactly the half? Because he's doing it in half the amount of time. He went into the meetings, let's say, for asking for 20 years for 15% of the purchase price of a new electric bike. So if you want to go buy a new bike in 18 years from now, you can get 15% off the purchase price. Instead of 20 years, they potentially did it in 10 years. So if you want to get that 15% off the purchase price of a new electric bike, you got to buy the bike in the next 10 years. You can't buy it in 12 years from now. It's still the same amount of money to you. It's just you can't wait around 20 years to ask for that money. It's all the same deliciousness. All right, now let's turn over to third stimulus with the big exciting details of what's happening with third stimulus. Third stimulus is getting really great as rent, utilities, and food and internet is now going up. Viewers of this channel have now gotten more money for rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance because they're getting more sophisticated across the board. I hope you remember this channel because now the numbers have gone up. You remember Mark, he got $51,000. Well, here he is in the numbers here. One viewer, actually a few viewers, have now gotten close to $40,000 of rent in the last week. Then, when we talk about utilities, Mark's brother-in-law got $15,000 for utilities. When we talk about money for SNAP, Mark's brother-in-law got $21,000. So how do you get this money? I'm going to show you right now. Get that pen, paper, and cell phone ready. First, I'm going to show you 6 places to reach out to. You reach out to all 6. Number 2, listen to the keywords I say in this video. Number 3, also lean on the nonprofits, which I'm about to show you. Here are the 6 places you reach out to. City Hall, City Housing Authority. County Hall, County Housing Authority. State Hall, and State Housing Authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID. Rent or mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. Remember, each place has different pots of money. They also have different eligibility. If one says no, reach out to the next. Second, before you call them up, if you are a member, which I hope you are, open the daily newsletter and look to the part where it talks about the Treasury statement. I want you to read the Treasury statement about this extra cash infusion so you know what it is. When you call up, ask about the money. They will have the money. Every red, blue, rich, and poor state will have that money. Next, utility companies reach out to all your different utility companies that you have for those money. Finally, if you're having some sort of eligibility issue, you think, for getting the money from the local government, then lean on the nonprofits. Why? Because the nonprofits do the same items from third stimulus with different eligibility. And what are those nonprofits? Here are the 5. They're also featured in the newsletter. United Way, Salvation Army, Community Action, Catholic Charities, and St. Vincent de Paul. The great news is that the nonprofits also pay for other items the federal government doesn't pay for, like clothing sometimes, homeless people into shelter, and sometimes food. Also Salvation Army with those holiday gifts starting right now, so reach out to them. Here again are the 5 nonprofits: United Way, Salvation Army, Community Action, Catholic Charities, and St. Vincent de Paul. Viewers are now reported getting new refrigerators, new furnaces, and new appliances. Also, they also report that United Way and St. Vincent de Paul have had excellent turnaround times for rent approval. All right, then the money for SNAP. Reach out to SNAP or Department of Agriculture to get that SNAP. It's going up an average of 25% lifetime automatically starting in October. Yeah, I know you got that September letter says it's going down. Ignore it because there's a second letter coming. That's going up. Everyone starting in October. Finally, the refund check for unemployment benefits. You're getting back that check from your state due to overpayment, computer error. Average payment is $2,000 to $5,000. And then from the federal government, average payment is $1,200 to $2,000. You can do an irs.gov search for the money. Mark, you got it. Todd got it. Michael got it. If you got any of these monies across the board, pick up the finger and start typing your success story in the live chat right now. Because when you do, you inspire other people. Finally, if you haven't become a member, what are you doing? The membership link is under the video. Members are delivered from me to them Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, via the YouTube alert system and the LATE alert system, the member newsletter. It features all the big money on the first, second, and third stimulus, and now is upgraded to include also the nonprofits and that Treasury letter. I want you to get as much money as you can. That's how Johnny got 80,000, Mark 50,000, Johnny's friends 100,000. You can get this big sums of money. Lorraine 105,000. She's now heading to 120. So I want you to get these big sums of money. Finally, promise yourself 3 things this week. Number 1, first, you're going to pick up the phone and advocate for the inclusion of that stimulus into the recon. Pick up the phone, and before you do, think in your mind, what am I going to say? Think about your story, what's unique about your story. Is it something about your family that you needed, or the church, or your town, or your business? Why do you need the money? Think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. If you're going to leave a voice message, think about what you're going to say. Start by saying, I'm a viewer of LALATE, and say what state you're from so they know where you're calling from. They want to be able to log these different states so they know where you're calling from. And pick up the phone and call as many offices as you call. Bernie Sanders, Liz Warren, Chuck Schumer, Ron Wyden, over on the House side, AOC, Jalapa, Omar, Sheila Jackson. And if you do 2 calls today, do some more calls each day or every few days that you can. Number 2, I want you to get as much money as you can for rent and utilities right now, because this money's available right now. It's not going to be available indefinitely, and I don't think it's continuing back on the fourth stimulus. Number 3, lean on the nonprofits, because it was 80 degrees here over the weekend here in Los Angeles. It's still not cold in the United States, so they're not getting a lot of calls just yet. A few weeks from now, it's going to be cold. They're going to start getting those phone calls for heating oil. So make those calls right now and get those big sums of money. And with that, we go back into the final recon across the board. What's important to know is that nothing is coming out of your recon. It's all separate programs, or loaves of bread, loaves, as Sheila Jackson calls them. They're not coming out. Rather, how they pay for it with modifications of the tax code on the back end. That's going to get changed, something that doesn't really concern us. Then, it's important to advocate, because now this channel is pivotal in the passage of that recon. Democratic progressives have now reported that they're keeping track of this channel's videos and your advocacies as exemplar of why Americans want this stimulus. With millions of viewers on a regular basis, the biggest footprint on social media, the biggest footprint on YouTube, the biggest platform there is, you have the ability to deliver that voice. So deliver that voice. Meantime, all this week, we're going to see all the dramatics unfold about this and that. There was a lot of trash talking last week among the moderates and the progressives. I don't expect it to go away, so get ready for it. Don't see a negative comment come in from Gothenheim or something like that and say, oh, he just said something negative again. Don't look at a particular one quote out of context, because a lot of people are talking at the same time. It's a full discussion, and guess what? You're part of the discussion. And with that, subscribe. Before 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. This channel's making history once again. We got that second stimulus check into the CR. My idea, the CR for stimulus check. Now we're making history again on fourth stimulus. Become part of history, become a subscriber, and become part of the advocacy of this channel. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Join me next as we go into Afternoons LA and some more, some overnights crypto, and Evenings LA. Shows tonight at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11:30 at night. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with LA for more.